Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another one of our Guru interviews. Steve Plummer here. Now look, in the next 30 minutes, it is going to be extremely important for the stability, success, and probably ultimately the long-term profitability of your business. So I urge you to shut up all distractions, folks, get a pen and paper, and get ready. With us is lawyer and accountant to the stars, Warren Black. Welcome, Warren. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Steve. Good to be on here.
All right, look, folks, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about Warren so you get a bit of a feel for and a bit of context for his expertise and why he's on the call today. Now, Warren is a qualified lawyer. He graduated with first-class honours. He's also an accountant who has over 23 years' experience in tax and business law. He worked for 10 years for the dreaded ATO, so he's seen it from both sides, and he has over 13 years in private practice as a lawyer and an accountant. Now, Warren is known for his ability to create out-of-the-box solutions to minimise tax for his clients in 100% legal ways. Now, I know those are key words for everyone, minimise tax in 100% legal ways, so hopefully I've got your attention. Now, look, in fact, many of Warren's clients have sought him out for his unique gift to make the complex tax and asset, tongue-tied at the moment, asset protection secrets of the rich easily understood by the average person. Now, Warren's passion is to educate people and so they are empowered. He's a seasoned Australia-wide and international presenter in tax, asset protection and personal empowerment. And Warren's here today to share his expertise as he reveals the 5 biggest mistakes business owners make with their structures, why it's costing you a fortune, and potentially leaving you vulnerable to losing it all. Now, that's a huge one, so Warren, let's get straight into it. Warren, it might sound like marketing kind of talk, but, just how vulnerable are many businesses in your experience?
Oh, Steve, yeah, they're extremely vulnerable. It's something that, very few accountants even, it always shocks me how they just don't show clients and don't reveal the level of vulnerability, because I'm not just an accountant and lawyer who's done structures. I've been involved with a lot of bankruptcies and liquidations and just simple situations where somebody owes money to the ATO in their business, and because they're a sole trader, they end up losing their business and end up having bank accounts frozen, wages garnished, what's called garnishee, which means suddenly their employer has to send money, which can put their job in jeopardy, and then their credit rating ruined because they get defaulted, whereas it can be so easily avoided by just some simple structuring.
Okay, that's really interesting, because if I could just, probe into that a little bit more, a number of my friends are small business owners, and, we'll be having discussions over beer, and, they'll say, I haven't done my tax for 3 years, or, things like that, which seem quite commonplace. Is that your experience, and is that one of the things that is leaving people vulnerable?
It's very common. The number of people who, I think there's this resentment towards tax in Australia, and I mean, to some degree I sympathise because, I hate it myself, because the amount of tax we pay in Australia, excuse the strength of the words, but are pretty extortionate and daylight robbery in many respects. The average Australian pays something like 69% tax in business or something when you add everything up from GST.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this is a fact according to the Taxpayers Association. So you're dealing with some pretty big stuff. So many businesses, it's almost like a resentment. They don't lodge the tax returns. They don't get around to doing them, not realising that the vulnerability, because it won't just be the tax that they can be chased for. There can be penalties that are quite significant, in many cases double the amount of tax that they had to pay before. And at 69%, you do your numbers, you suddenly could end up paying everything you earned in tax. And on top of that, in certain more serious cases, they can actually prosecute. And in the past, the tax office are very loath to prosecute, whereas in the last 7 years, it's become a lot more commonplace to prosecute people for not actually doing that and lodging returns. And to be honest, it's... The BAS statement is probably something that's an even bigger issue than tax returns. Companies and individual sole traders just not doing their BAS returns on time and not understanding that can significantly cause major problems if they get into financial trouble, because the laws are very different if you've done the right thing and if you haven't.
Okay, you've got my attention. All right, I put my hand up, yes, you've got my attention. All right, let's get stuck into it then. The 5 biggest mistakes business owners make with their structures, why it's costing you a fortune and leaving you vulnerable to losing it all. The floor's yours, Warren.
Okay, well, look, probably the first one, like I said, the biggest one I find more than anything else, even bigger than the tax returns, is the BAS statements. That's such a big one. I'm going to mention that one and stress it, because if you're a contractor, if you're a business owner, if you in any way have to do a BAS statement, you're in a position where you've got to pay GST, pay-as-you-go tax, and if you don't, the tax office, since 2 years ago, there was an announcement by Michael DeCenzo, the commissioner at the time, that the ATO were going to move to a zero-tolerance policy towards debt collection because they were sick of businesses, as they saw it, making the tax office the last priority creditor. So they decided that pretty much if you don't pay up, we'll give you a couple of chances and then we'll sue you if necessary to take your house off you. And they've kept true to their word. So not doing a BAS statement or just ignoring it or letting it build up, what can actually happen, and I've seen this happen to clients, is suddenly let's say you don't have a company, for starters, they can come after you for the debt. They start giving you notices, and suddenly they go to court. Next minute they've got a judgment against you. And often happens in your absence if you've been a bit absent-minded. You get garnishee, which means your bank accounts get frozen, money starts coming out, and your credit rating has been hit. And before you know it, suddenly, more than just a tax issue of financial trouble, you now are kind of penalised in your ability to go out and build wealth, because part of building wealth in business and society is the ability to get finance, to get cars in the business at low interest rates, to get houses. And for example, right now, the going rate for interest, if you're a professional, you can get about 5.5%, where you can get about 6.5% at the time of this call. For a non-professional, which is still quite low, but if you're a defaulted or bad credit rating client, most banks will give it to you, and the ones that do will charge you 10 to 12% interest quite easily. So the biggest thing is it really penalises your ability to build a financial future for your family. On top of that, though, you can actually, like I said, they can actually go after you. They can do an order for sale of a house. If you're in a company and you're running your business for a company, they can actually force you to wind up your business and take things from you. Whereas a simple bit of structuring and doing that all properly can solve that very easy. So the one biggest mistake is not attending the BAS statement, because let's say you're running a company as well, and let's just say that the company, you take out your GST and you take out your group tax, yourself or for your employees, and you don't lodge your BAS statement, you don't get round to it, you can't be bothered. If you are 3 months late or more in lodging your BAS statement, if your company gets liquidated, they can chase you personally automatically for the debt. Whereas if you lodge your BAS statement on time, and then let's say that you rack up $100,000 tax bill in your company and realise you're in trouble, you can actually wind the company up and you have a get out of jail free card, which means wind it up and not have to pay the tax back personally. So one very, very little good trick there to know is that do your business through is lodge your BAS statements on time, which leads to the second probably biggest mistake is not using a company structure, because using a company structure or company as trustee for a trust to run your business gives you the ability to close down the structure and completely wipe out the debt. So if you've got a pay-as-you-go group tax, you can get rid of it. Now, mind you, there were some changes made in 2012, which up until then it was very easy. Now in 2012, one, you must lodge your BAS statement within 3 months of the due date, and secondly, that exemption doesn't apply to unpaid super, and it doesn't apply to group tax, let's say for yourself. So let's say I've got a business and I've got 5 staff and I take out group tax for my staff and GST and I owe income tax through my company. All that can be killed off with a liquidation or closing my company down. However, the group tax I owe for myself, basically, I may still have to pay, and the stresses of may, there's no guarantee. So it's a no-brainer. Number one, lodging your BAS statements. Number two biggest mistake is not using a structure, because literally you shield yourself from liability. And so often people say, oh, look, Warren, my business is small, it doesn't really apply to me, I don't save much tax. Not realising that without the shield, if something goes wrong in the business, and especially I stress tax office debt because that's very common, like being sued, it can certainly happen, and in fact on the lawsuit statistics, the average business owner gets sued 3 times in their lifetime now, according to statistics in Australia.
Wow.
Again, yep, another shock statistic, I know. That's taken on New South Wales figures and Queensland, but you're talking about 3 times. Now, lawsuit doesn't mean necessarily go to court, but a lawsuit can just simply mean you're being sued. So, or someone's threatening to you and you've got to deal with the issue and have a settlement and all that kind of stuff. Well, and I can assure you.
Sorry, Warren, to interrupt you there, but regardless of what the outcome is, I see 2 things there. I see stress and I see money, regardless of what happens, you know?
Oh, completely. Stress and lots of money and not being able to build wealth. Absolutely.
Yeah. Warren, can I ask you just while I've already interrupted you once, so I might just put in a little question here. The idea of the trust and all those sorts of things. Do many business owners really not set up themselves up that way? Is that quite common?
Oh, very common.
Really? Okay.
What happens is business owners go to their accountant and their accountant often might say, oh, look, don't worry about it, you're small, just kind of see how you go. Or they just go online themselves or just start their business and don't even think about it because the stress and responsibility. But I would say that, I reckon at least half the clients I see come in haven't set up a structure.
Wow. So really, I guess the rule of thumb, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're taking money from anyone in a business sense, not necessarily an employee sense, but in a business sense, you should have a structure in place. Is that right?
Oh, you're crazy not to, yeah. If you're being a sole trader is the worst thing. The only thing that's worse than that is being in a partnership. That's the only worst thing, because then you can be liable for the other person's debts as well.
Right. Warren, I just wanted to ask you too, something just sprung to my mind before, again, sorry to interrupt you, but there's a perception out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, that people who don't pay their tax, they kind of think, look, they only chase you if I owe them money. If they owe me money, I'm right, they're not going to come after me. Now, is that necessarily true or not?
It is partially true, because you've got to think of the tax office like a business. And I used to work for the ATO for 10 years, which I think was mentioned. And I was an auditor, and I worked in the research department. I worked with tax counsel at one stage. I assisted them. So I had a pretty, good role in the tax office. And I can remember in 1992, the commissioner at the time gave a speech to all of us and telling us that from now on, basically the tax office, is a cost-benefit analysis. We want to make sure that if we're doing stuff, we've also got to make sure it's viable. So, in other words, the tax office generally are going to chase up as a rule. If you owe them $100,000, then you're of interest to them. But if you owe them like nothing at all and they owe you a refund, then in practice they often don't chase you. In saying that, I've seen them do it. So, I've actually known of a client of mine who's owed refunds for 5 years. Just out of the blue, the tax office started giving them notices to lodge a tax return. They didn't bother because they owed refunds. Next minute, they got a notice to appear in court. And so they go to court, and the court said, look, there's no issue. They said, look, I made refunds. And the magistrate said, well, the thing is, you have a statutory responsibility to lodge a tax return, and especially in getting a notice. So basically, you're guilty of an offence of failing to comply with a notice, and without due excuse. So basically, they fine them about $4,000 or $5,000 or something.
Wow. Okay. So you never met out the window.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right, fantastic. All right, let's just recap. So the first one is pay your BAS on time. The second one is get your structures, your trusts and so forth right. Now, was that all on those first 2 points, Warren, or was there something else, or we're going on to number 3?
Pretty much. I mean, number 3 kind of leads on from that, which is basically, as a general rule, I prefer using trusts than companies. That's probably my third one, is really get the right structure and separate your assets and your risks. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. You may set up a company to run your business and think, great, I've now got a company. Then you decide to go and buy a business premises or business property or buy some houses. So some people might go, okay, let's buy it in my company. Well, the problem is, if you buy your business premises or buy your house in the same structure as you're running your business and you get sued in your business, what's going to happen to your personal assets and your business premises? They're going to go down the toilet, aren't they? So it's very important to separate things. So to give you an example of what I do in my own business and with clients, let's say that, I'll actually use you, Steve, for example. Let's say you're obviously, one of Australia's top copywriters. You run that business. Let's say you also run your own online business separately to that, which is in something completely different, selling health products. Let's say that you are buying an office to run your business out of, and let's say that you're into investment properties. So, and let's say you also like the share market, just for good measure. Now, if you do all that to the same structure, if one thing goes wrong with any of them, it can wipe the whole thing out and you're dead meat. Mm-hmm. So what you would do is you would and this is exactly how I do my own structure with my own life as well as my clients, you would run your costs through one structure, you would run your your health business through another structure. So that means if your health business gets into trouble with a TGA or someone, your copywriting remains unaffected. You would buy your business premises in a separate structure and lease it back to your instructors. So if you get into trouble with your health business or your copywriting, guess what? You don't lose your business office. And you would also own your, like say, your shares or investment properties in another structure again. And you can even separate the investment properties from the shares depending on how anal you are about protection. But the short thing is, therefore, if something goes wrong with your investment properties, like someone slips on a banana skin and sues you, your businesses, your commercial property, your shares, all that remains safe. So,
yeah, Warren, that's all time and money for me. You know, I'm so busy doing what I'm doing. You know, I can hear people saying that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you know,
it's cost benefit, and I think a lot of it depends. So what I say, it's a bit like insurance. It's a bit like, do I insure my car or not? If you've got a $2,000 car, I know people, you may not insure it because you think, well, at the end of the day, I'm going to self-insure, because what you're doing really, if I smash the car, so be it, but I'm not going to pay $500 to insure my car. Whereas if you've got a $60,000 car on the finance, well, you're going to insure your car. So it's the same kind of deal. If you've got some serious assets and wealth and you're building an empire to protect, I can assure you that any clients I work with who are serious at building wealth, this is how they structure. Let's say you're just a small operator. You might just simplify it. Like, okay, you know, it's just a bit of a headache. I'll keep it simple. My health business is only a minor thing. It's just a little online thing that generates me 10, 20 grand a year. You may just put that through the same structure of your copywriting and take the risk. And you may even set up one of the structures that just owns all your properties and keep it simple, and then just get an accountant who just looks after it for you. So it's all cost benefit really. And you know, it's better to have a structure with nothing at all. So for example, I've had clients who just can't handle any kind of paperwork or responsibility. Look, at least run through a trust or structure. That's going to make your life a lot easier, because if you get sued, you can close it down. The point is, you can keep things very, very simple. That's the main thing I'm saying. So we can simplify things, and you can do it as much as what works. If you really hate paperwork, there are ways we can do it. So it's a bit like buying a car. Are you going to buy a $2,000 car? You're going to buy a $10,000 car? Do you want to go buy a $30,000 new Commodore? Do you want to buy a Volvo, which is 80, or do you want to buy a Rolls Royce? It's entirely up to you, depending on the level of sophistication that you want.
Right, okay, that makes sense. And I guess that is one of those decisions that a business owner has to make, isn't it? But I guess the overall, it's a little bit like professional boxing. You know, before the fight starts, the referee will, you know, get the fighters in centre ring, and he'll say, you know, I've given you instructions, you know, in the dressing room. You know, and then tells them hit here is low, here is okay. You know, this is professional boxing. Protect yourself at all times. Touch gloves, come out fighting, kind of thing. So that little line about protect yourselves at all times really applies very much so to business, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, my simple, like what I call basic, you know, cheap, like Commodore, you know, solution of just owning your business through a company or a trust, that in itself knocks out about 90% of your problems.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty, so we're at get your BAS in on time, get your structures right. A structure is better than a company, and separate them. And what's number 4, Warren?
Well, not structure. A trust is better than a company as a rule.
My mistake, yes. A trust is better than a company, yep.
Yep, and the 4th one is keeping good records. That's really important. There's a lot of, I know we all hate paperwork. I mean, I hate it. I'm an accountant and lawyer, and I loathe it. I've done personality profiling, and I'm the kind of guy that likes to kind of market and do talks like I'm doing here now with you. I hate paperwork. But the reality is, bad paperwork will cost you in many ways. Number one, it costs you in the sense that disorganised people, I find their paperwork, are generally not financially doing all great, because an organised life brings, an organised mind tends to bring organised wealth. So I've noticed that wealthy clients are very, very organised with their paperwork. Number 2, it also can cost you in bankruptcy, because there's actually provisions in the bankruptcy law, but if you get into trouble and you've got bad records that can't prove your case, it's presumed that you've committed certain offences, or presumed that you can't prove it, and they can claw back money from you personally.
Wow.
That's pretty serious. It's scary.
Just for being slack or a bit overworked, overwhelmed, you could be liable.
Oh, absolutely, totally.
Yeah.
there's serious provisions there, and same with the tax office. If you've got sloppy record keeping, I can assure you, I've had clients who've been audited, and because of their sloppy paperwork, the ATO's policy is to audit you generally for about 1 or 2 years back, and if they find you sloppy, then they'll go back many years. And I can remember in my case, one of the reasons that when I was tax audited myself and came out clean, I know a big factor was the incredible sophisticated organisation of my paperwork, which they were very impressed with. Now, one of the things I'm really into is organisation of simplicity. So, for example, I've set up everything on Dropbox and setting up apps on my Samsung Galaxy phone, which an iPhone can do too, where I can scan any receipt I buy, I can just scan it, it goes straight into my Dropbox, and then my assistant bookkeeper records everything, so my records and everything are always done simply. I don't have to bother about storing my paperwork. Recently I went for a loan to buy a new car, and I got it, and literally I found my paperwork, Steve, within 15 minutes. Now you tell me anyone else who could do that, who can find all the paperwork, your tax returns for the last 3 years, find your group certificates, find your bank statements and all that. I had it within 15 minutes emailed on my way to the finance broker. And it's because it was all used through Dropbox. I scanned things, I just scanned documents myself. Even before talking to you today, I was on a meeting for an hour, and while I was on the meeting, I was scanning some documents because it was a mindless job and I could keep talking. And by doing that, I literally can find paperwork whenever I need it. I don't waste the hours of time. And it's just about organisation, If people, rather than, you might lose 3 or 4 hours a week because of bad records. Whereas if you spend an hour or 2 a week just organising them, you save yourself time. Yeah. And not just that, in a lawsuit, if you can get up and produce paperwork that proves everything you're saying, that has sophisticated trail, they can trace, you can go back and show your receipts, your documents. Believe me, it leaves a very good impression on a judge, a very good impression on a regulator, and I can assure you it will leave a lasting impression on your wealth. So I'm absolutely adamant with all my clients about keeping good records no matter how much you hate paperwork, because I say I hate paperwork, and if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, well, there it is again. Protect yourselves at all times and with good records. Great stuff, Warren. Yeah. And it certainly makes sense. Apart from the legality, it is also, I guess, if you look organised, you are organised. So, it works both ways.
Oh, absolutely. And just one quick further comment I'll make on that, Steve. That's actually saving you time and reducing stress, because you think about it, if you've got organised records and you know where everything is, and you've got to give paperwork for a loan or anything, and if you know you can prove all of your claims and your paperwork in detail, will it give you peace of mind when the auditor comes knocking at your door? Will it give you peace of mind when you are going for a finance loan that you can basically get stuff quickly and not lose momentum in your business?
Oh, completely, yeah. 100% true. All right,
okay.
Let's hit number 5, Warren.
Okay, well, there's probably many that could qualify as number 5, but I'll probably give you number 5 and a bonus tip. My number 5, which to me is ignoring a notice, because I find business owners do this so often. Like, you're busy, you have all your mail turn up, you suddenly get this notice from the ATO about, you haven't paid your tax on time, or somebody else or someone sends you a notice saying, hey, you owe me some money, or Telstra saying, hey, you haven't paid your mobile bill for the last month. And that can have catastrophic effects. I had a client who got a mobile bill and they just kept getting this notice, and they just were annoyed about it because they thought they'd paid it and they couldn't be bothered, and they just ignored it. And next minute Telstra defaulted them on their credit rating, and it took us like months to get rid of that default. Months and months, and we only by a bit of wheeling and dealing from me were able to get rid of the default. But that, again, I've already gone through about the consequences of a credit default. On top of that, ignoring a notice, like with the ATO, like I've already mentioned, can cost you from having the ability to wind up a business and save yourself a lot of tax to being personally liable for tax and being chased for it. And let's just say that somebody's going after you for money, and you ignore them, they can go to court and get what's called a default or summary judgment against you, which means in your absence, and suddenly next minute you have a court order against you, which can be listed on your record. So never ignore a notice. I say to people, never. If someone sends you a notice, a government department, someone saying you owe them money, deal with the notice. Put aside some time once a week or a couple of times a week where you just deal with crappy stuff. And I do that myself, and I always dread those days, but I always do it, and I'm always glad I've done it.
Yeah. Again, Protect yourself at all times, even if it is a bit painful. It's only it is like insurance, Warren, isn't it? You only need it when you need it, kind of thing. It just is so seemingly needless until you're in trouble.
Oh, completely. I actually say to people, tax actual minimisation legally is the best investment you can get. And I'll give you an example. Let's just say, Steve, I said to you right now, you pay me $10,000, I will save you $20,000. And every year now, that $10,000 you spend with me will save you $20,000 a year for the next 10 years. I mean, if someone came to you and said, if you give me $10,000, I'll pay you $20,000 a year for the next 10 years, would that be an investment you jump on?
It sounds like good numbers to me.
Well, it's too good to be true. I think a lot of people, if I got offered like $10,000, I get $20,000 a year guaranteed, I probably wouldn't believe it. But with tax planning, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot more money in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All right, now I'm intrigued, Warren. A bonus tip.
I'll give you a bonus tip, and this is a minor one, but it causes more heartache and money being spent and protection issues, and that's what I call the fear of death and not doing a will. Whenever I speak at a seminar and I ask, put your hand up if you haven't done a will, and I reckon nearly half the hands in the room go up. And there's two reasons for that. One is I think people don't like to think about their death. And the second reason is I think there's like this assumption that, let's go to my wife anyway, or to my kids. It's not actually true. I had a case some years ago of a lady whose husband died without a will. They owned a very, very valuable property, and that was the only asset they owned, and they were pensioners. And she came to me to organise what's called probate, which means getting the house transferred from him to her. I had to be the bearer of the bad news and tell her that because he hadn't done a will, she's only entitled to 75% of the house, and 25% went to next of kin. Now, they had no kids, so it was his two brothers. The two brothers he had not spoken to for 25 years from a fallout. Being a pensioner, she couldn't get a loan, lost her home, had to sell the home, and basically pay out the two brothers.
Wow, that's scary.
It's scary, and not doing a will has horrendous consequences, and that's in many situations. And even not the right kind of will, like let's say you're a wealthy person with like 4 or 5 properties, you can end up paying a fortune in tax by having a simple basic will that wasn't in a rush job than going and getting a proper what's called 3-generational testamentary trust will. So sorting out your estate planning, just thinking, you know what? It's something I've got to get done. I won't have to worry about it for 5 or 10 more years before I review it again. I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it. I stress it because I've seen more heartache. I had a client even not long ago who, because their father died and did a basic will, but didn't do a proper will, just did a basic will, owned numerous properties. They were going to end up with a $1.2 million tax bill that they wouldn't have needed just by moving assets between the brothers that they wouldn't have had to worry about if they'd had a proper will. So it cost you money, stress, time, you name it.
Wow. That's scary, $1.2 million in tax. Oh, dear. Yeah, okay. Now, Warren, just on that, this might be a how long's a piece of string kind of question, but in terms of legal fees, what does a will generally set you back?
Oh gosh, it's a bit like buying a car. I mean, you can get wills for as low as, a couple of $100, which is a basic will. And if you've only got let's say, for example, you're married, just got a family home, you've got no other assets at all of any way, shape or form, you might just do a basic will that might cost you, $200-300. If you're a couple, it might cost $500-600 for both of you, right up to about $5-6 grand. I mean, some more complex estates which own a number of properties, own farms, who really wanted to avoid tax, make sure it went to the right people, looking about 5 or 6. So it's a bit like buying a car, Steve.
Yeah.
You can buy a car for 5 or 10 grand, or a couple of grand, or you can buy one for 100 grand.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. All right, Warren, thanks very much. Just to recap, it's pay your BAS on time, make sure you've got your structure set up the right way with your trusts and companies and so forth. Number 3 was a trust is better than a company. Number 4 is keep good records. Number 5 is never ignore a notice because of the default and all that sort of thing that can happen. And your bonus one is to make sure you've got your wills all in order and set up properly. So there we go, folks, 5 big ones and a 6th bonus one from Warren. Now, Warren, before you go, I've got to just sort of steer the conversation, I guess, a little bit in terms of a particular passion of mine. And I know you have a more than a passing interest as well in copywriting. So as a business owner, just if you could tell the folks listening, what's your take on the importance of copywriting in terms of business?
I think in the modern day, I think it's everything, Steve. And I just had a meeting, in fact, a staff meeting for my staff today, and we were talking about some stuff because we've had a significant growth in our business in recent times just purely from Google, and that's been because of our website and our copywriting. And I personally think that the days of a lot of business from big companies on television advertising billboard is getting less and less. And the reason is very simple, because there's so much clutter out there. So your ability to write good sales copy that's compelling and stand out from the crowd, it's just crucial. I mean, we put a lot of time and investment. I've got myself and someone else trained, and in fact, I'll add, of course, we got trained by you, and it just changed our whole business. And just by the ability to actually write good sales copy and making sure that we can do it. Because, I mean, I know people need to protect their assets, but if I write like crap, then no one's going to necessarily see the need for it. Whereas by using the right kind of words and the right kind of stuff to make the point really clear, I mean, just one word can make a difference. And so, yeah, we just had a whole staff meeting on that one. We've got our whole landing pages. We get them critiqued by Copywriter and Paid. I know got one critiqued by you recently. Yeah, because your website's like your business. To me, your website, for example, is your retail shop now. That's like the old days walking down the mall to look at a shop. People now stay in their home, go online, and go down the mall of Google to find a shop. And your one's got to stand out, and then when they go into your shop's got to look good. It's like you've got to have good racks, good stands, and to me, the good racks and good stands are good pages with compelling copy, great video, and all that. So personally, I think it's like the importance of copywriting. Well, it's like, how important is it to have your shop in a good location and have really, really good layout and appealing to the eye and friendly staff? That's how important copywriting is to me.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor, and thanks for your kind words there, Warren. I appreciate it, although I did put you on the spot a little bit with that. That wasn't a setup, folks, in case you were wondering. But, yeah, it's an important point. The copywriting, even if you don't want to write the copy yourself, learning it to know what is good copy and what's not good copy is a very, very valuable thing that will save you as a business owner, save you lots of money down the track, but also make you a hell of a lot of money for the reasons you suggested there, Warren. So, look, thanks very much for that one. Now, Warren, before we wrap this up, you're based over in Perth, but I take it you don't have clients exclusively just in Perth. You have clients around the country. I'd be right in saying that, wouldn't I?
I would say about 80% of my clients, Steve, are not in Perth. And that's because I travel a lot and speak. I'm in Queensland a lot. And not just that, we do have, for example, accountant who works for me, who works with me, who's based in, say, Sydney. But yeah, a lot of clients I do by Skype, and I think more and more people do that by Skype, by phone. I travel so much to do with seminars that I see people face to face as well. So yeah, no, I'd say 80% of my clients I deal with are actually not in Perth.
All right, fantastic. Now, if anyone listening wants to get their structures checked out or, has questions about tax and BAS and those sorts of things, how can they get in contact with you? Would you like to make the folks listening a special offer or, at least give some contact details there so they can get in contact with you?
Well, sure. What we do is that if they go to WealthSafe website, which is www.wealthsafe, so wealth is in wealth, like WEALTH, and then safe as in S for Sam, A for Andrew, F for Freddie, E for Edward, so WealthSafe, like building safe wealth, .com.au, so www.wealthsafe.com.au. You can go there and you can put your name down. We do have a free report or ebook that we actually send to you, which just basically goes through the asset protection and structures in a bit more detail. And the other thing we do, and the offer we always give, is we give a free 30-minute consultation. So somebody can actually have a chat to one of our staff and basically they go through, have a look at your fact finder or look at your information and just can give you initial thought as to things you need, no obligation at all. And on top of that, we're on Facebook as well, and we give regular free tips, which are completely no obligation as well. So last month, for example, we gave 10 asset protection tips, which were just the month before that, we gave 10 ways you can save tax, and we got a lot of feedback, people loving it, just ways you can, simple ways to, get a greater car expense deduction. So in terms of special offer, if people listening to this put a they've come through Steve Plummer and heard that, then I'm quite happy to personally make sure that when to do a consultation or whatever else, I'm quite happy to personally have a look at it and make sure I'll give a guarantee that any ones that looked at by my staff in the consult, they'll get a personal look at it by me as well.
Oh, fantastic! That's great to hear, Warren. And I think Phil.
I don't normally do that, believe me.
No, I know. And like I said at the start, and I chose my words carefully. You are the lawyer and accountant to the stars. I mean, you've been on the stage with the likes of Richard Branson and so forth, haven't you? So I mean, to coin the phrase, you're out there. So you are very busy, and that's no mean feat there, folks, to get someone of Warren's calibre to have a look at your stuff without charge. So, Warren, thank you very much for your generosity, and I really do hope for Protect Yourself at All Times that at least a couple of our listeners actually take you up on that, because it will be a huge benefit to them.
Oh, absolutely. Just to clarify that off, it doesn't mean I'll do the 30-minute free consult, but it does mean that once one of my staff does it, they'll run it by me and I'll personally have a look, which normally we don't actually do.
Yeah. You rely on your staff like I'm sure business owners do.
Yeah. And then people pay to get me. Correct. Yeah. People normally come to me unless they pay. So I'm happy to do that and have a quick overview of what my staff does and give my feedback. Yeah,
fantastic. That's wonderful. All right, Warren, we are out of time. So look, Warren Black from WealthSafe over in Perth in WA, thank you very much for your time. I've got lots of pages of notes. Hopefully everyone else has. And like we said at the start, protect yourself at all times. So, Warren, a very, very heartfelt thank you from me to you.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you.